Good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde. Now, you're not unaware that we've been talking a lot on this program about insecurity and everything like that, and the questions will not just stop coming up as to why this and why that. The far-reaching effects can only be imagined. One instance, of course, you heard the president yesterday saying that it was impossible, it was necessary for us to deal with the insecurity issues as quickly as possible because the rains are coming, and food security is paramount. Secure the area, secure the farm area so that people can go back to the farms, and so we do not find ourselves in a food crisis. That's what the president said. But that's one way in which these insecurity issues are affecting our lives. One other way is infrastructure development. There's been a lot of work being done about some erosion issues in Cross River State, and government, of course, would imagine that would venture in and do the needful. But then there is an update. Watch.
Allahu Akbar.
This was what Ikot Nkebre Erosion site, one of the gully sites in Cross River State, once looked like. A very sorry state, to say the least, for members of the community. However, in 2017, they got intervention from the Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project, NewMap, following the devastating effect on the lives and livelihoods of residents. According to members of the community, work commenced in earnest until a twist of event, which resulted in an indefinite suspension of the project by the contractors over alleged attacks by hoodlums. The affected community are now exposed to more frightening erosion situation, which could possibly lead to a total collapse of the area.
The recent one that caused the job to be halted now is the one that is on ground, that the company was attacked and their drivers beaten, macheted, wounded, and they were taken to the hospital. And their trucks were seized.
The contractors claim their safety can no longer be guaranteed as some staff members have suffered physical assault and their equipment stolen, which prompted them to suspend work indefinitely.
In the course of trying to express themselves, they went straight to where we are hauling our materials, laterite, because it's an erosion project, requires hauling of materials. They went there, apprehended 2 drivers and the trucks, and then took them to an unknown destination that we can't find them to date. We could hear them say, because after taking our trucks, they came back to the yard to do a kind of wrap-up. And then they told us that the next time they will be coming, that heads will roll. So we are being advised in our own safety to be on hold.
According to the project director, work is about 95% completed. He calls on relevant authorities to intervene before the rains set in.
Projects like this erosion job is dynamic. If this issue is resolved on time, the better for even NewMap, Ikot Nkebre, and for us, because we just want to hand over.
The residents of Ikot Nkebre community in Calabar are hopeful that government and relevant agencies will heed their call and act fast to save their lives and livelihoods.
So that is the update in Cross River State. And how many other projects are being affected by insecurity? How many infrastructural developments are being affected at the moment? No one in this country is unaware of the infrastructure deficit that we have, which has largely, suspended development and all of that. And don't also forget that from time to time we always infer that there is a need for us to do everything that we can to ensure that we do not end, the way we do not want. How far do we have to go before? How much worse should things get before we step ahead of this and not just nip it in the bud, as Marco would say, it's already a full-blown flower, but also to make sure it doesn't get any worse than it already is. Marco?
You know, some things just need to be investigated. Good morning, Ayo, and good morning to Nigerians. Some things just need to be investigated to, you know, for us to find out who is really behind it. I mean, what sort of bandits, for lack of a better terminology for this group of people now, goes to contractors to tell them to stop work. Because I don't know what the end motive is. But I think that these kinds of matters, we shouldn't just leave carelessly and say, well, the entire country is facing insecurity, you know, so maybe this is just part of it. I think that in some instances, just digging a little deeper might reveal just what type of bandits this one are. Are they enemies of the community? Well, the fact that they've taken such an action already, you know, shows them as enemies of such a community, because if a community is about to lose substantial parts of its land to erosion and some intervention has finally come in and you are trying to stop the work, I don't know what that makes you. But we have to ask questions as to what the motive is. Is the person just jealous? Is this the case of a jealous contractor? Is this the case of, I don't know. There are all manner of things that one can say. Or is this just about the general banditry going on in the country, kidnap for ransom going on? Or what exactly is it? What is the message behind it? But I think that, you know, the security agencies shouldn't just go to sleep and say, well, in some instances, we don't even try. I mean, we don't even make any attempt to. It would seem like when these cases are reported, they're just reported for the heck of it. And that's it. Nobody really seems to care anymore. And that shouldn't be the case, especially where it is that we're trying to not just save lives, but also save people's livelihoods and save all that they have invested, all that, in fact, in some instances, their ancestral home, the connection that they have to Mother Earth. I don't know. That's on the one hand. I don't know if you also saw the video that made the round yesterday. I don't know how recent that video was, of, you know, the things that we sometimes also do to ourselves. When we talk about an infrastructural deficit, for instance, where you see people going to vandalize rail lines. And you have to ask, to what end? I mean, in recent times, we have seen that the bridges that are now being constructed, where we usually would have steel railings along those bridges, even some of the flyovers, you know, which are now very popular amongst governors, you will notice that they no longer use steel railings because these things are prone to being stolen. They now use concrete railings. Because when the, you know, the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, the bird too will learn to fly without perching. So I do not know in this instance what sort of railings we should be adopting, you know. Thankfully, though, we understood that some of those people that tried to vandalize the rail line, I think a trap was set for them and they were caught. I'm not able to verify now, but we saw the video making rounds. I think that the chairman, I beg your pardon, yeah, the MD of the Railway Corporation should be speaking to that, if indeed that was what transpired, because that video, you know, went viral yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, Ayo. But yeah. These are the kind of things that we're talking about. Sometimes you have to just find out, are these the general bandits? Is this just criminality? Is this, of course, they're all criminals at the end of the day, but is this just about the economics of it? If it's about the economics, do you want to kill people in the process? Because you have to ask, what is the motive behind going to go and remove rail lines where you know that a train can derail as a result of that and people's lives will be lost? What sort of hunger makes you want to kill people, kill your fellow man and woman? But I don't even know what sort of question I'm asking this morning, because you also asked the question about those who counterfeit medicine, you know. What is the motive behind it? Is it not to make money, but they don't care that people die in the process? I don't get it. What sort of human beings are these?
Ultimately, Markwe, it's about us. You know, when security agencies tell us that security is everybody's business, perhaps, you know, this is part of the thing that has been talked about. As for the rail lines that were vandalized, they were actually, you know, peeled off of the rail lines. Pretty much, one can pretty much, you know, some of that. The intention is to make sure that the railways derail, the trains derail, so that they can kidnap the people and collect all kinds of things from them. That there is no other explanation in my head, for that one. But ultimately, and of course, you've asked the german question of should we need to decrypt the kind of banditry that we are having all over the place. No doubt, criminality, insecurity is shape-shifting all over the country, and we should find a way to get ahead of it. And there are some people who are supposed to get ahead of it. That is supposed to be the assignment of the DSS. Are they also as overwhelmed as the military, as the police? So many questions to ask. But I don't know. As the president said, everyone is working hard. But then, as an African saying says, no one will eat almost in a pot of soup. Let's go into the papers and see.
Almost doesn't kill a bird.
Yeah, let's just look at some of the issues in the newspapers this morning. The Vanguard newspaper starts this morning with Lawan Baja blast southern governors over call for restructuring. And that is interesting, wouldn't you say? Restructure first at state level. Elected officials shouldn't lead agitation. That's according to Lawan, the president of the Senate. Agitations may be genuine, but governors shouldn't join calls for restructuring, as subscribed to by Jabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Adds, we're all to blame. This story is on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, and that's interesting. Very, very interesting to see. If you want to check on the inside pages for more details. And right under that story, insecurity, no to special military operations in Saudi, South, Ohaneze, Afenifere, Pandef, can. Find that story on page 5 of the paper this morning. IPOB, ignore rumors of attacks on Lagos. Ohaneze, Igbo leaders tell Sanwo-Olu. That story you'll find on the 10th page this morning. Nigeria's diaspora remittances fall 27.7% in 2020, ascribed to the World Bank. What does that mean, really? Again, the details are on the inside pages. Well, the summary of that would probably be, if diaspora remittances are falling, perhaps spending power is also falling with it. On the back pages, Vanguard Sports, Champions League final. UEFA settles for Porto as hosts. Find the details on the inside. Penick confirms Super Eagles friendlies. And that's also right there on the inside pages. Kano celebrates Arsenal's win at Chelsea. Again, check the paper for all the details. That's the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
I'm going to protest on your own behalf, Ayo. Why didn't you take Mr. and Mrs. this morning? Did you forget to?
Okay, well, I just thought to honor my folks. Okay, if you insist, it's actually quite interesting. Mr. and Mrs. Two gentlemen this morning are not Mr. and Mrs. talking. One man says, I don't get it. Men are the weakest sex, but women can't be stronger than us. That's impossible. And the second man responds, look at you. Didn't we fall flat in our faces in the Garden of Eden because of ordinary apple? How much is an apple? 50 naira. That's Mr. and Mrs. for you.
And I knew that was the reason you didn't take it. It wasn't because you didn't see it. If there's any comfort, Apple has gone up to 200 naira, and that's how much I bought it in Abuja. Let's look at New Telegraph here. 2023, power rotation, zoning, unsettling APC, PDP. Convention stalled as parties consult. It's a page 2 read for you. That's on the front page of New Telegraph this morning. It's about 2023, and it looks like, well, whether or not we like it, we're in the full swing of 2023, even though it would seem that there's at least clear 2 years ahead for the next government to take over. But Hey, this is where we are in Nigeria. Federal government moves to cut $2.16 billion annual capital flight in telecoms. Frowns at foreigners' domination of telcos management. What are they going to do about it? Page 4 might give you insights into what could happen there. You also see this obituary. Ex-Defense Chief General Dogoyaro dies at 80. Buhari, Lalong, Jang, others mourn. Kalu, he was a gallant officer, seasoned administrator. That's on the front page of New Telegraph. I don't know why it is that my face is what you're seeing instead of the paper which I'm reviewing. Look at this. Malami Ibori suit against UK delaying £80 million loot repatriation. Says federal government to soon resuscitate special terrorism prosecution courts. So the AGF has been doing some briefing. You might want to take note of the details on page 8 of the paper. Other stories right there will deal with bandits to ensure food security. Buhari pledges, and you have an exclusive for you. Sex for food, destroying girls, women in Northeast IDP camps. Well, the situation where women and girls are left no other option than to sell their bodies for food in IDP camps, I don't think it's something that we should take lightly. I mean, this story has been out there for a while and it doesn't look like much has been done about it. Perhaps a page 3 read will bring it to the attention of those who need to do something about it. Look at this. Any Nigerian against Southern governor's position on ranching has hidden agenda. So it would seem that it's getting more than Southern support. There might be also some North Central, who knows, maybe Northeastern, Northwestern support as well. We don't know. But let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
It's interesting, Malkwe, because, I mean, we also remember that the Northern governors held a meeting and resolved that open grazing wasn't fashionable anymore. So it would seem like all governors are on the same page about that one. Or has there been a change of mind somewhere? Maybe some explanation we should expect soon. Nigerian Tribune this morning leads with this one, part of the stories that you read from the front page of the New Telegraph. FG to resuscitate special terrorism prosecution court. The story is on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Find the details on the inside pages. And right under the picture, you see there of Durbar Parade, restructuring. Senate President knocks Southern governors. Leaders should not be the ones calling for it, he says. We're all to blame for the present mess, says Bajabiamila. Anyone opposed to governor's resolution on ranching has hidden agenda. That story is hereby confirmed, by Governor of Benue State as well. Well, of all the stories you find on the left side of the page there, one of them is interesting to me. Fully vaccinated Americans need not wear masks again. That's according to the CDC. Stories on page 29. Doesn't sound like what we hear here, but maybe when we're all fully vaccinated as well, we don't need to wear masks, but that's what you have on the front page. Right above the nameplate, officers shot as gunmen set police station, vehicles, others ablaze in Abia. It is not good news, not the kind that you want to hear, but it's what's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Leads you to page 27, where the story is. That's the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Well, let's look at Leadership Friday for you. The weekend has really started on the front pages. Look at this. 40 days of agony. Kaduna priest narrates ordeal in kidnapper's den. They removed my fingernails with pliers. That's according to Father Dawa. Abductors of Deeper Life pastor demand 30 million naira ransom. It's a page 4 read for you. We must end banditry, kidnapping to achieve food security. That's from the president. And look at this. Why governors should not call for restructuring, attributed to Senate President Lawan. Noise pollution, 700 million people to have hearing challenge by 2050. That's according to experts. You might want to know whether maybe what you're doing or whether you'll be among the figures by 2050. It's a page 30 read. Police denying withdrawing officers from VIPs. That's also on the front pages. And if you look at this, 90 killed in Gaza hostilities as federal government urges de-escalation. That's also on the front page. Anxiety grips investors as crypto market plunges. Yes, the market is still on, even though the CBN says, you know, don't involve our banks in this crypto business. We're not interested. But it's still going on. Page 4 will have details for those involved in the crypto market. Let's leave it there for Leadership Friday.
The Blueprint newspaper today is provoking something, you might say. We know bandits' whereabouts. Let's fish them out. Subscribe to Bala. Find the details on the inside pages, and that's something that we heard. You know, we even heard something similar from the Minister of Information, who says that, you know, there are about 400 terrorism financiers that have been identified. So we're waiting. Says FG, governors must work together to address challenges. Take resolute, decisive steps. Sultan urges FG and governors. Buhari pledges action on gunmen and food security. Our story is on page 6. Southern governors are betrayers, ex-governor Adamu says. What does that mean? Find the details from the front page, leads you to page 6, where it continues. They're all guilty, Lawan Bajabiamila. Those against them have hidden agenda. Subscribe to Autumn, governor of Benue State. That's the Blueprint newspaper today.
And if you look at The Guardian, they have something totally different from the front page of Blueprint. Knocks kudos for anchor borrower scheme in Southwest. Scheme is corruption prone, says Oyo Afan chairman. Our biggest challenge in Ondo is herdsmen, Akimbi declares. Oyo getting set to access anchor borrower scheme, says Raji. We released 1.8 billion naira to 8,757 beneficiaries in Ogun. CBN insists. So you might want to read details on page 6. Ondo farmers nursel trade words over fraud allegation. That's also on the front page as well. And look at this. Africa's COVID-19 testing declines as deadly variants spread. Don't forget that this week we were slammed with new regulations. Well, they're just simply reintroduced, so not too much partying in this weekend. COVID-19 cases surpassed 4.66 million, 22.4 million Africans vaccinated. MPHCDA silent of date of next batch of AstraZeneca, 6 equitable access to vaccines, and soldiers to vaccinate residents in volatile areas. That's according to the federal government. So we don't know when the next batch is coming in, but whenever they do, soldiers will be the one vaccinating those in volatile areas. Look at this. Lagos community alleges herdsmen invade farmlands, attack owners, also in Lagos. So you might want to see details on page 26. And Nigerians celebrate Eid Fitri in darkness as outage persists. Well, I do know that there was a statement by TCN yesterday because there was a grid collapse. Following the conversation on Twitter, Dr. Joe Abba asking, what exactly is a grid collapse? Why does this grid keep collapsing every time? And there were very interesting explanations to that particular question. But yesterday, TCN did say that they had fixed the collapse of the grid and that electricity should come back on. In some places they were on, but it would seem that from what the Guardian is reporting this morning, there was still plenty of darkness in many places. So the distribution companies should look into that. Let's leave it there for the Guardian.
Definitely a lot of work for them to do. Nigerian News Direct very quickly. Salah, we are better than 2015. That's ascribed to the president on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct this morning, as well as a few other stories. TCN restores bulk power to all 330 kVA across grid, according to official. That's the story you just took, Mark Webber. Question you want to ask is, how long is it going to take for power to return to all the areas where there has been power outage over the nation? I guess time will tell. Well, that's the look at the papers this morning. We're back to take on the issues for the day. Do stay with us.
It is a meeting that cuts across party affiliations. Governors in the southern region of the country are here to discuss issues of national interest, security, economy, and health. 13 governors and 2 deputy governors are in attendance, with the exception of governors of Erosion and Cross River states. The governors go into a closed-door meeting which lasts for about 4 hours. After that, Governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, briefs the press on the resolutions reached, part of which is the long-standing debate on restructuring.
Progress of the nation requires that urgent and bold steps be taken to restructure the Nigerian Federation, leading to the evolution of state police, review of revenue formula in favor of subnationals, and creation of other institutions which legitimately advance our commitment to and practice of true federalism. The meeting recommended that in view of the widespread agitation among our various peoples for greater inclusiveness in existing governance arrangement, the federal government should convoke a national dialogue as a matter of urgency.
On account of the security challenges brought about by farmer herder crisis, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has this to say.
Caution of armed herders, criminals and bandits in the southern part of the country has presented a severe security challenge such that citizens are not able to live their normal lives, including pursuing various productive activities, leading to a threat to food supply and general security. Consequently, the meeting resolved that open grazing of cattle be banned across southern Nigeria. The meeting expressed grave concern on the security challenge currently plaguing the nation and strongly urged Mr. President should address Nigerians on the challenges of insecurity and restore the confidence of our people.
The group then calls on President Muhammadu Buhari to calm the nerves of Nigerians in the wake of the challenges.
In view of the widespread agitation among our various peoples for greater inclusiveness in existing governance arrangement, the federal government should convoke a national dialogue as a matter of urgency.
Concerns were raised over the COVID-19 restriction order passed by the federal government, to which better cooperation is seen as the better option.
The meeting expressed concern on the economic implication of another lockdown on the country and therefore suggested greater coordination and cooperation between federal and state government in evolving strategies for dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic.
At the end of the day, the governors pledged their commitment to the unity of Nigeria based on justice, fairness and equity. Hopefully, resolutions reached here will be implemented in order to achieve the desired objective of peaceful coexistence.
Well, Well, here we are now. So the issues are there, and one of the things said, well, Jimmerlin, one of the things that's been said by the Southern governor is that the president should address the nation.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, everybody. But, you know, after that, which is generating reactions anyway, after observing the Eid prayers, can we describe that as having spoken in line with the request of the Southern governors?
Maybe we should hear it and find out ourselves if it is enough an address.
Law enforcement agencies are working hard to regain confidence against the bandits so that people can go back to the land. This is very important. This is what the law enforcement agents are very busy about now. The rainy season is coming, so we want people to go back to the land so that we can get enough food for the country and even export. And we are hoping Nigerians will understand the problem. Nigerians know at which stage we came, 2015, what stage we are now, both on security, both on economy, and we are going by the Constitution. We are doing our best, but with the resources available and the manpower available to us, we are working very hard. And I think the National Assembly is cooperating very well. Within the resources available to us, they are certainly giving us priority in our requirements, and we are doing our best. The important thing is the elites must make the attempt to understand the military. If we order, say, weapons and armored vehicles, it takes time for the manufacturers. It takes time when it is brought here eventually, shipped here, taken to our training institutions, training the trainers, and then sending them to. This is a very, very long process. And even if you can have contact with the retired military chaps, they will tell you the difference between the time we came and now, how much hardware we have got, how much training we have done. If you don't know, go and ask people from Borno, from Adamawa, the difference in terms of security. And without security, you can't do anything. And in the South, our biggest surprise and disappointment is what is happening in the Northwest. And we are dealing with it.
Well, the question is that enough an address?
Well, I guess in the coming days, you know, there'll be a lot more reactions from, who knows, maybe from the Southern governors themselves, maybe from the National Assembly, who, oh, by the way, the Speaker, the President of the Senate and the Speaker also spoke that about, perhaps much later they'll get to hear for those who may not have. Yeah. But I'm sure a lot of people will also take a look at, re-examine that comments by the President following the meeting. Well, who knows, really? But these are some of the issues that we will be looking at this morning. And as such, we've got Dr. Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, haven't heard the Southern Governor's 10-point agenda or recommendation. I see why. But there are perspectives wherein people begin to see how will the laws support some of these resolutions, if not all of them, what needs to be done. But yes, there's the National Assembly caucus themselves, the Southern senators in the National Assembly, even the House of Representatives, threw their weight behind the submissions or recommendations of the Southern governors. So from your perspective, tell us, does the National Assembly have capacity, or in what way do you think that they can perhaps give some sort of structure to some of these recommendations from the Southern Governors Forum?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. I think the first thing is that despite the knocks from you get now from the against what the Southern governors have done, I think the first thing is to commend these Southern governors for going the bipartisan, multi-ethnic road of governance. We have rarely seen this. You know, we would have seen those from APC or PDP or whatever other parties going in different directions. But this time, it looks a lot more patriotic. And that's what we are talking about. Governance must be done in public interests and not just what we're seeing before.
All right, Dr. Nanaba, we're losing you there, so I think we'll just have to see, perhaps. Okay. We'll just have to see. It's still not clear enough, but we'll sort it out and then get you back. But some of the initial comments you've heard there, talking about, yes, that they had to go bipartisan. And I think people shouldn't be surprised because, look, you hear knocks. You know, there will be perhaps more knocks from other regions, maybe other areas, other quarters, interest groups. But then largely, lots of people just thought, leadership. I think you referenced a similar matter. If we will tend to see, or if we will see this kind of camaraderie moving forward, not just amongst the southern counterparts, across board, up north as well, such that the interests of the people will be paramount when it comes to issues such as this one. But the President of the Senate spoke up, even though many couldn't understand some of this, but some of the highlights, which we'll get to hear, he did take, was it a knock or direct reference? Yes, to some of the demands of the resolutions, as a matter of fact. Well, here is his part now.
I believe that as leaders, particularly those of us that are elected at all levels of government, we should avoid partisanship, we should avoid regionalism. We are all leaders and we are in this together. The solutions must come from us regardless of what level of government we are, whether at the federal level or at the state level or even at the local government level. And I want to take this opportunity also to say that we have diminished the local government system. I think we can attribute some of the security issues to the absence of local government system, functional local government system. For me, I think the time has come for us to take up the challenge, the gauntlet, to ensure that the local government system functions. This is in keeping with looking for ways, for means, for solutions to the security challenges that we face. We must never neglect the local government system. I believe that this is one system that had worked, even though in a different name, when it was Native Authority. It was very effective, very efficient. So we must go back to our local government system to ensure that the local governments continue to be autonomous, continue to be functional in order to complement whatever the states and the federal governments will be doing.
This is not a time.
Okay, just hang on a bit for that, but the second part of it. But yes, the President of the Senate saying, look, this kind of call should not be coming from elected leaders.
So who should it be coming from? You know, I think I understand, you know, I'm trying to understand his perspective as to, look, you know what, rather than make such pronouncements publicly, let's discuss it in an executive session, so to speak, so that we can, you know, have a, you know, way forward about it. But
hasn't that always been the problem? Or in recent times? Because this is about security now.
Chamberlain, there are 3 senators from each state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the National Assembly, all governed under the administration, so to speak, of the President of the Senate. All right? So if this position of the Southern governors was different, the senators would have cried wolf. It is not. all northern governors said the same thing. You recall the comment of the governor of Benue State as well, that open grazing is no longer fashionable. It is not in use. And then something that he said about the local government administration, wow. I just recall, I mean, we would not have the kind of epidemic we have on our hands now if the local governments were effective. Because as little as they have sanitation officers. You could call them sanitation police. In the Yoruba palace, they call them wole wole. They entered your house, checked the water you drank, just to make sure that you were drinking healthy water. Your house, not public water.
And there was a lot of trust.
And there was a lot of camaraderie among the people, you know. So so when the Senate President, the President of the Senate is saying that, you know, the local government needs to work, the question I'm asking is, what role can the National Assembly play in that? We always have this collaboration with the state houses of assembly who have supervisory authority over local governments. Yes, but how far so far? What can be done by the legislature?
You know, when he says, this President of the Senate, that, look, there's a failure, local government system, there's several things that shouldn't have happened. But look, the governor of Ondo State told us the other day, it's not the first time they've been meeting. But interestingly, this particular meeting, you see a lot of commendations across board, across different parts of the southern region who are plagued with security challenges. So the governor's chief security officers of their states, albeit some say on paper, but they seem to have picked up on what the people who elected them want. Absolutely. And if they highlight some of those things, look, maybe some other persons want them to be politically correct. But the thing is, and with due respect to all political leaders across board, but the people are saying, you have not done enough from what we have seen. If their families are being kidnapped, ransom being paid, people have to squeeze so much and people don't feel secure. What do you expect them to do?
I'm wondering.
And where have they been all the while? If you now say, well, local government system has failed, what have you done 6 years on about some of those matters? So, who knows?
Major questions right there, but, you know, maybe we should go back to that conversation with Dr. Ananaba. Well, you started by telling us, I mean, there's a little bit of commendation at least from what the southern governors have begun to say and to do now. But then the issue of legality has also been raised by some. In what ways do you think they have maybe perhaps, you know, run roughshod of the law in one way? Because some are saying, I mean, listening to Senator Ndume yesterday was saying that maybe the constitutional consideration of free movement was not considered in that suggestion or recommendation or resolution by the governors. Perhaps there are others you may want to reference. Okay. Dr. Araba, I'm not sure we can hear you. Perhaps the device is on mute. The application is on mute. Could you unmute yourself? See if you can hear you.
Thank you. I was just saying that democracy entails that you have your say, you have your view, and I want to say that there's no philosophy in this world that doesn't have an adherence. There must be somebody who believes in every kind of thing across the world. But coming close to what we are talking about now, you will agree with me that even what we call fundamental rights are not without some derogations, even from the Constitution. The Constitution, Section 45, derogates in public interest, in the interest of health and security and all that. No Nigerian will say that there is no issue of public security and public interest in terms of issue of movements across the country now. That will be just playing the ostrich and living in denial. Now, we cannot, in fact, the Supreme Court has heard in Asari Dokubo's case that when we are talking about national interest, a bit of so much of fundamental right doesn't arise. If they are shooting at Chinese television now, you won't be there to discuss. That's the point being made. So I believe the governors have done the right thing, and I support what they've done. They have not enacted any law, but as elected governors of the entire South, they are inundated every day with complaints of burning of stations, shooting, killing, kidnapping. They are close to the populace. And if this is what happens across, and they have come together to say to the leadership at the national level, to say, listen, this thing should be addressed. I think it shouldn't be taken lightly. They have not picked up arms. They have not done any further thing, but to say, across bipartisan lanes, this is not politics. This is not by a political party. This is not by a pressure group. These are elected governors. And I would have expected that there would have been serious attention to it. And not even that alone, members of the National Assembly from the South have also weighed in on this. So, literally speaking, in a manner of speaking, the entire South have taken this position. So it is something that I believe that we should encourage, rather than allow the country to continue to drift. You know that these governors are in the best position to let the President of the Federal Republic to know what is going on in the country. So that is my position. I think the governors have done the right thing, and I think they should be commended, and I think the federal government should address these issues. Take, for example, the issue of national dialogue. That is overdue. The one that was, the conference that was done in 2014 has not been addressed properly, and we need to address those things. We need to come together to stop. We better Georgia than war. I think that is what the issue is. So I think everywhere in Nigeria should commend these governors so that they will continue, to do the right things. Thank you.
Yeah, but that part where they call for national dialogue and that the president should address the country, what kind of structure should this national dialogue take? Because you know that there's been several calls about conference, sovereign national conference, or national conference, or let the National Assembly play a particular role. Maybe the president should lead it. So does this appear vague? What's your impression of what convening a national dialogue means?
National dialogue means the National Assembly is and the call for a dialogue. If the National Assembly is so,
all right, Dr. Apologies again. I mean, we just seem to be losing you. The network, perhaps we'll sort that out and then bring you back as well. But we also do have Ebonlu Adegboro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well this morning. Perhaps I should pick it up from, let me pick it up from the perspective of this national dialogue on this Southern Conference, even though we'll come to the comments of the President of the Senate, the President, and the Speaker. But when the Southern governors say there needs to be a national dialogue, what's your impression of what this means and how it should play out?
I think if you look back to the 2015 elections, when the All Progressive Congress was seeking the mandate of Nigerians to be in power, they brought a manifesto. And that manifesto clearly talks about devolution of powers. They talked about amending the Constitution to ensure that the subnationals, the regions, the people of Nigeria themselves will have a say in how they are governed, in how their resources are being utilized. And that has not happened since 2015 up to now. So when the governors gather together and are calling for a sovereign national conference, they are reflecting the will of Nigerians. They are reflecting the desire of Nigerians. There seems to be so much confusion in the land, and there's need for a cohesive discussion that will give us a meaning of what Nigeria Federation is all about now. I mean, look at what is going on in the land. Insecurity, farmers can't go to work. You cannot even travel within your local entity. So, and the governors are not in charge because they don't have control over security. The governors are not in charge because they cannot harness the resources in their states for the benefit of their people. The governors are not in charge because they go to Abuja every month to go and beg for money in the federation. The governors are not in charge because even universities that they establish and they call state universities, it is the federal government that will determine who can get admission into a university that is being funded by a state. The governors are not in charge because they cannot even generate electricity for their own people, even though they have the resources. So it's important that at the stage we are now, we are at a critical stage of our nation that we should not be pretending that there is a federation called Nigeria. We should determine the terms of that federation. We should dismantle the constitution and get us a new document that will define what indeed should be the terms of our togetherness. I think that's what the governors mean by there's need for national conference.
All right.
It is important and urgent.
Okay, we'll come back to both of you, gentlemen, when we return on this national conference, new constitution, the role of the National Assembly moving forward. That's when we return. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Continuing our conversation with Dr. Paul Dananaba and Mr. Bonlu Adigboro, both of them senior advocates of Nigeria. But let me get to you, Dr. Dananaba, on this question of the role the National Assembly can play, because the Southern Caucus have told the Southern governors, we support you. Just reach out to us such that we could harmonize these positions and give it the legal framework, as it were, such that it could make a lot more meaning beyond rhetorics. So what role do you see them playing, particularly when it's got to do with perhaps a new constitution or the dialogue?
Yeah, thank you. The National Assembly, Section 4 of the Constitution gives them the power to make laws. But you could agree with me that they've been altering the Constitution. They've done that 4 times already, and it has not solved the problem. It is the nature of the problem that you have that determines the solution to it. These governors are aware, many of them are lawyers. They are aware, and they can see that the speed and the approach of the National Assembly cannot solve this. And in this country, we have had conferences, assemblies and all that to address these issues. This requires a national dialogue. Now, in the National Assembly, you have to obey party supremacy. You have to work along party caucus and all that. That's not what Nigeria needs at this time. Nigeria needs a frank and open discussion, similar to the 2014 conference, where we will review all previous conferences and agree as to the terms, as my brother was talking about, This federation, how do we run it? Will we run it by the principles of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, or are we going to run it in such a different manner that it will be beneficial to all and acceptable to all? That is the problem, and that is the issue. These governors have seen that, and I believe that they need support. I expect the governors of the North too to key in, because they are not also finding it easy. It's not a matter of the North and South. It's a matter of the heart and soul of Nigeria. We should all come together and sit together. It's not a matter of balkanizing or destroying the country. No, that must not be on the table. It is a matter of how do we manage our federation so that it will be better and beneficial. We are not enjoying it. You can't travel. You can't do a lot of things. Students in schools cannot go to school and be sure that they are safe. Some of them have been taken away, abducted, kidnapped, and killed. And these are children of human beings. They are human beings. They say that there are parents that have lost their children. Look at security personnel that have been shot every day. Don't we feel for them? How can we say, how can an investor come to this country today with this insecurity? You are not even sure we'll be on the road between your house and the airport. So that's the point. So it's not a matter of things that we should take to the National Assembly. The National Assembly has its role well cut out in the Constitution. Let them continue to do that. But we don't need to alter the Constitution again. We need to have a Constitution that reflects the wishes and thinking of Nigerians today. Look at the 1999 Constitution. It was put together in 30 days. I'm not criticizing that Constitution, but I'm saying that we need a deeper thinking to evolve what we can call an autochthonous Constitution. A Constitution we can look at properly. And I wouldn't be thinking of starting that process when it is too late and then just rush it. It shouldn't be rushed. And membership of such dialogue must be carefully selected and not politicized and not given to a handful of people, which the details of what the governors have said should be worked out. They didn't work out the details, but they made the point, and I agree with those points, that we need a dialogue, we need to reevaluate and restructure this country, and we need to take a second look at the way we are running the country. If we continue to run this country the way we've been running, it will not give a better result. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Oluwadubura, I suspect you want to react to some of the things that you've heard Dr. Paul Ananaba talk about. First of all, because I have one question from what you said earlier, but you want to first of all quickly react to some of the things that you've heard.
Well, I will react to that, and indeed some of the bylines that you displayed on the screen. You know, because we must understand the concept of constitutional rights so that we don't use them negatively or wrongly. When the Constitution says in section 38 that you have a freedom of movement, it is not a freedom to trespass on the right of property of others. The freedom of movement simply means, Ayo, that you as a human being, you are entitled to travel. You are entitled to go anywhere you like in the public areas without restriction on your liberty. But I cannot use freedom of movement to enter Channels Television by force, or carry my cattle and enter the premises of Channels Television where you have locked your gate, because you have already acquired the right of property over that land. Maybe you bought it from somebody. And the moment you have that right, I cannot use my freedom of movement to take my cattle into your premises by force and dwell there. There's no such constitutional right. The people who own farmland, the communities that own that land under the Land Use Act, which is under the Constitution. The land belongs to the people. So if I need to do any work within their land, I need their permission to sit down with them to negotiate the terms of what I want to use the land for. How many years? What quantum of land I require? What will I be doing on the land? How much will I pay for it? So you cannot say that you will move within other people's property by exercising right to freedom of movement. And I think it's clear that the people who own property have a right to defend their property. And if you need to use their property, you require their consent. So I think that's the concept of the issue of open grazing. And I think all of us have agreed that indeed we need to have some understanding by which the people who want to rear cattle or graze must have some permission by the owners of the land, who will then agree on the terms of that. Having said that, I think that the first thing I like to react to what Dr. Ananaba said is to really commend the governors because they have spoken the minds of their people. Section 14 says clearly that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So once life is not safe, once property is not safe, then there is no governance. But to that extent, I just want to put a challenge to the governors themselves. If we are calling for devolution of power, if we are calling for resource control, if we are calling for state police, the governors should start from their home front. The judiciary is currently begging the governors for freedom. The judiciary is presently begging the governors to release their funds so that justice administration can be easier. So charity should begin at home. And the governor should, as a matter of urgency, end the crisis we have in the judiciary now by releasing the funds that are meant for the judges. Because you cannot be calling for restructuring in the federal and you are sitting over the resources of people who administer justice. And we've been begging you for close to 1 month. And there seems to be no solution. And the governors are lawyers. They are senior lawyers. So we should get that solved. And then we agree that moving forward, we can use that template to discover the path to true federation, through restructuring, through state police.
Just a little bit on that particular point. You know, recently, I think, yeah, it was this week as well, there was a comment credited to the Minister of Information where he was talking about the federal government is considering decentralizing, I think it's the judiciary, such that it will not be federally controlled as such, and states will have a larger, bigger role to play in those areas. So will that in any way address some of these concerns you've raised?
I think it will, but the challenge we have is that it will seem that there is no commitment on the part of the governors across the states, not just southern, but also northern states, because they seem to be a little bit scared that a judiciary that is not under control would end all acts of impunity on the part of the executive, which can be worked together to ensure that justice administration is smooth and does not look at people's faces. You dispense justice without will, without favor, without evil, without affection, without fear that if you deliver a judgment against your state, your salary may be withheld. You may be witch hunt. You may be persecuted rather. So I think that is the area where we are addressing. That the governor should, please, for once, not be scared. They should release the judges to have independence and autonomy to administer justice according to law. So what the Honorable Minister of Information declared is in line with the expectation of Nigerians for smooth administration of justice.
But Dr. Nanaba, you know, the conclusion or the resolution of the governors praised across all divides as they are, the question that might be on the minds of many is, how will this be executed? How are these resolutions going to be executed in a way that it represents the exact interests that they want and not just some partisanship? It is getting it done, not just saying it, but getting it done. That is the issue. Do you see any challenge in that?
Well, the first point is, I agree with my brother Evo, that the states should begin this charity at home. If you don't begin it at home, and you are pointing fingers only at the federal government, you are getting it wrong. And that must be addressed. Secondly, the federal government should come out and accept that the governors have done are right in their requests. And then, thirdly, implementation comes by having agreed some committee, smaller committee, should look at the resolutions of these governors, and then we will come to modalities for implementing them. It will not be implemented when they are being castigated by the leadership of the National Assembly. What the governors are talking about is so important and it's the expectations, they are the expectations of Nigerians. So when there is the will, implementation becomes a lot easier. All we need is to acknowledge this will of the people. Having acknowledged the will of the people, state police, open grazing, and all that, we can come together. A committee structures out the dialogue. That's why there's need for dialogue. When the issues are streamlined, we sit down and talk and agree. And let me make this point clearly, that if we come out of this as a country successfully, other countries will learn the Nigerian model, and it will help them to come out of their own crisis. We can come out of this successfully and stronger, and the Nigerian Federation can become a subject of study globally. Now, today we look at the examples of the history of the United States, the history of the UK, the Soviet republics and all that. They passed through it and came out successfully. Nigeria is capable of doing so. And the governors have taken that patriotic step. I believe that it will be necessary for the governors, even of the North, across bipartisan lines and ethnic lines, to give support to these resolutions, and then support the federal government. We move on to the implementation stage. We are not at the implementation stage now. The stage now is the stage of agreeing that we have a problem, that Chamberlain, a police station needs to be protected. When you get to that level, you should know that you are in a problem. A police patrol team needs needs protection. So where will the citizens go? You can't go to farm. You can't do a lot of things. That's the issue.
All right, Mr. Adeboro, listening to the President of the Senate, it comes across, body language as they call it, as though he's not enthused with the recommendations, 10-point albeit, of the Southern governor, saying, look, those elected officials should not be the one championing some of these things. This problem we have is as a result of the failure of the local government system. So it does suggest as though he doesn't buy it. And if they're to take it to the National Assembly and they play a role, doesn't that suggest that that right there might just be part of the hurdles that needs to be crossed if we're to have this new constitution, as you say?
I listened to the Honorable President of the Senate of the Federal Republic and even the Speaker. I think that if we go with what goes on in Nigeria now, it seems that once you step your feet upon the premises of Faso Villa, I mean, what comes out then begin to become a matter of suspicion as to whether indeed it resonates with the yearnings and aspirations of the people of Nigeria. The legislators were elected to represent the people of their various constituencies. The Speaker of the House of Representatives cannot, in all good conscience, tell me that he will come to Lagos and repeat what he said on television. We shouldn't continue to behave as if we don't know what our people are going through. I live in Lagos. Is he not aware that we don't sleep with two eyes closed? Is the Honorable Speaker, with respect to him, not aware that virtually in all the parts of his constituency, in the southwest, in the southeast, in the north central, in the northeast, bandits and terrorists have taken over the lives of the people. People can go to their farms, people can go to school. Is he not aware? So I think that, with all due respect to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the utterances that they uttered yesterday do not resonate even with the will of their own political party. If they go back to read the manifesto and the constitution of their own party, what they are uttering is totally at variance with the promise they made to Nigerians. So I think that that is unacceptable. What the Southern governors have said,
for some reason, we seem to have lost sound on that particular matter. But, gentlemen, we do get both points, all the points you've made, and at this point, we need to thank you both. Mr. Ebumolu Adegborowa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Dr. Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right, we'll be back and still staying on the same matter, but different perspectives. Don't go away.
A third Security Council meeting summoned by President Muhammadu Buhari in the last 2 weeks. Attended by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, service chiefs and some members of cabinet, the meeting sought to squarely address the national security crisis, highlighting priorities for the months ahead. After the 2 previous meetings, the President gives approval for new security measures to improve the situation.
The Security Council meeting, which has taken place 3 times within the last 11 days, has assessed the situation in the country, particularly in the southeast and south-south. We have some measures which we have outlined, and it has been approved by the Council, and we'll see how we can change the narrative within the quickest possible means to restore law and order and restore peace in that area. We solicit all law-abiding citizens to work with us to identify and deal with the situation.
The Council made clear that multiple security challenges across the nation in the last few months demands desperate tactics.
I briefed Council on the enablers of crime and the need to find quick responses with a view to mitigating the growing threats to society. And these enablers I discussed in detail, and Mr. President has already given direction on how to deal with them, specifically issues of drug abuse as propellants for crime, how to make the criminal justice system much more effective, as well as looking at issues of unemployment, which of course the Federal Executive Council had given an approval through previous memos on how to get 100 million people out of poverty.
These are intelligence-led operations. It's not intended to be too loud about them, but of course they all gear towards effecting the directives of Mr. President. And that's the reason why you've observed a little calm in the Northwest. And of course you will find that in the North Central quite a lot has happened. In the Southeast you have also been following, because I saw reports of some of you where you brought to bear the actions that we have to undertake in that regard.
Well, apparently, the service chiefs feel very much compelled to divulge less information about the tactics involved. But what seems to resonate more is a coordinated action plan by the federal government that includes procuring speedily military hardware to finally halt insecurity in the country. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
All right, so still on the same matter, and joining us now to weigh in on the subject matter, we've got Onyekachi Adekoya. He's a fellow of Nigerian Institute of Industrial Security. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today. Good morning. Thank you for having me. We also do have Matthias Sado, who is a convener, Hope Platform Initiative, and also was a former presidential aspirant of the ADP. Thank you for joining us as well on the program.
Thank you, Tommy.
All right, let me start with you, Mr. Adekoya. Well, one records, industrial security taking a hit too as well, I guess. But looking at this whole episode and how they are playing out, particularly the recent narratives of the leadership of the National Assembly, do you think, does that in any way suggest to you that, wait a minute, are they just being political or just pointing out some gaps that may exist if we were to sort the problem out, really and truly?
So we have to face the facts of the matter at hand. What the Senate President said is also correct, though it's a backhand way of hitting back at the governors. it is said generally in law, he that comes to equity must at least come with clean hands. So the state governors from the south have come together to make certain demands of the Nigerian state. The critical question is the administration of criminal justice in itself, in those states, how is it faring? How the local government faring in those states? So if you cannot clean house first, you then will point to Abuja, as we so conveniently do, to say there in Abuja is your problem. So some of the statements which the governors themselves made are very political. And the speakers who spoke earlier spoke very correctly. Let's move beyond talk. Let's see some action. Let's see some laws. At least crystallize some of those and domesticate some of those resolutions in your own state. And if you must, form a regional security network. If you must, declare 1 week of no work in your state so that everybody can go and clean house in their respective communities. If you must, let us see some action on the ground. Talk is cheap. Talk is very cheap because it is true what the National Security Advisor was talking about. In 2019, we drafted and published a national security strategy which said that the new approach in security will be predicated on first human security. And you must deal with the other social issues. You can't have social order if you don't have social justice. And the social justice system is failing in the states. So you can arrest people, you can't prosecute them effectively, you can arrest them and prosecute them, you can't correct them because correctional services are almost non-existent. So there are challenges, and the challenges are systemic. Yeah. But as to why we are where we are today, the problem generally is politics. Wow. Politics.
Mr. Sado, right there in Kaduna, I'm sure this meeting, the resolutions might have resonated. So what are your immediate thoughts about the demands, recommendations, and what we should be doing moving forward?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain, for having me this morning. Clearly, we have seen the situation in the country, and we can obviously look at leadership as it is at the moment has failed. And the questions that people are raising, and I think it's beginning to get to the ears of those who are in government, and the governors of southern part of Nigeria have come up to make a demand, which I think that it's re-echoing what is happening on the streets of the country. Largely, I believe that the leadership from the center, and I will differ a bit from some of the commentaries I've heard. Leadership today, to have effective and successful leadership in a society today, what you need more is influence, not authority. And one of the things that the system in Nigeria have concentrated on is authority. Nobody is thinking about influence. The reason why the president of Nigeria will come out today and vow, like he has always been doing for the past 5-6 years that he's been in government, the president have used the word vow more than 20 times. And after vowing, after making so much soundbite on television, after making so much of political jingles, political statements, it ends there because there is usually no action plan. So what we are facing today, and what our conversation should be, in my own opinion, is that we need to change from a talking society to an action society. We need to have a government that does not just
now.
In front of.
Okay, we need to go to break, but we'll take it from there when we come back in just a moment. Welcome back. Mr. Sado, you were making a point about we need to move from talking to doing. What should we be doing now? And
obviously, Chamberlain, in your studio, in China's television, if you have a problem, if you have a technical problem, you call for the technical team to resolve the problem, to solve the problem. You don't call them to come and tell you what the problem is. the Nigerian people elected these people to solve the problems of this country. And for goodness sake, I think we are tired of excuses. We are tired of being asked as citizens of this country to cooperate, to make sacrifices. It is only in this country that I see that leadership is the center of everything that is beneficial, and the people are always in the center of everything that is sacrificial. It doesn't work that way. We should not be talking about, we shouldn't be having these kind of conversations at this point. We should be talking about implementation of the plans of this government for, we should be talking about rounding up this government at the moment and then be counting their achievement. But sadly, here we are having the conversation, having the streets of this country. The reason why I'm having this interview in Kaduna at the moment is because the road to Abuja is not safe. I would have driven down to Abuja to have this interview. And this is the sorriest situation in the country. So how much more words do the government wants to issue now? How much more words do they want to dish out to people? The people are, sincerely speaking, the people are tired. People I listened to the president yesterday, and I sounded a couple of young people, and a lot of them were like just hissing. When it has gotten to that point, then the leadership have lost its mantle. I always say this, that the first and the fundamental responsibility of a leader is the ability to inspire the people to do the things that they want done in a society. If the leader has lost that capacity, he has lost his leadership mantle. So the conversations that we're having at the moment is just nothing but soundbite for televisions. And at the end of the day, the people on the street are suffering. The younger people, the group of people who I speak to, I interact with regularly, are frustrated. A lot of them are exiting the country in droves. How long are we going to continue to have this sound bite come from our leaders without any action plan? The president said that he was going to lift 100 million people out of poverty. That was a sound bite. It was something that a lot of people were deliberating upon, were discussing it on national television for the past 3 years. For the past 3 years, the president made that statement. Up to today, how many millions have been lifted out of poverty in Nigeria? How many jobs have this government been able to create? 774,000 jobs were supposed to be created. Where are they? So these young people are now become volatile. These young people are now become tools in the hands of the criminal enterprise that are recruiting them. You heard very well that recently Boko Haram was giving money to people in Boronu. This is the situation in the country, and we are frustrated. It's painful that the leaders of this country cannot, for one reason, one moment, take responsibility and sit down and have an honest conversation about the way forward for this country.
Well, Mr. Sado, we also recall that the military has since said that that's the report of Boko Haram handing some palliatives, so to speak, to people in the north was not true. But then let me bring this conversation to Mr. Adekoya. Clearly, it would seem like there's a lot of work on one hand to do, but then the partnership between the people that you want to serve and the service you're offering to them seems to have been derogated over the years. So even getting the buying of the people to first of all believe you, then trust that you're going to do what you say is one issue on its own, then the actions to be taken to solve the problems, and that's another thing altogether. It would seem like this conundrum is unwinding.
Very well. I think you put it very well. I think that sadly too, and with due respect, profound respect I should say, leadership has become a joke in this country. So the 17th governors from the south came and made a statement. The only thing making the news this morning is the ban on open grazing. Nigeria has the 5th largest head population in Africa. Okay, we cannot even sufficiently meet our dairy demand. We need about 1.4 billion liters of cow milk every year. 99% of the herd are local. We don't even have proper herds for even meeting our nutrition requirements. And we are all about the noise of open grazing this morning in Nigeria. Why do you think that's happening? People want to distract us. You don't like the guy in Kaduna said, action. Action. You talked about a disconnect. It's just because we are two different parallels in this country. Leadership on its own parallel, the people on its own. The people complaining today are still the same people that don't vote. The same people who don't have PVCs. It's a joke. You have in certain states, what are these governors talking about? Some states have 6 million, 7 million, 20 million people in a state. How many are these people troubling the states? Are they up to 5,000? So it will seem like if we were serious in this country, we will find bold steps of stemming some of these issues.
The Chamberlain asked the question the other time. What action should we be taking now? Now, you're talking about just a few thousands as opposed to the millions of
Absolutely.
people. But then, when your voice is loud on one hand, and then your action seems to be louder than just your words, over these thousands of people, you know the Pareto principle and you know the role it can play in this kind of situation.
I think the problem more is the Pareto principle, really, because we are troubled by about maybe 5% of the population of this country. About 95% are seated docile, doing nothing. Action. What action should be happening? Sensitize and conscientize the people in the state, Mr. State Governor. Stop running to Abuja. The governor in Benue is raising certain issues. I didn't see anything to support some of the concerns that the man in Benue is raising in that template communique of the 17 state governors. Because an injustice to one, seemingly, is an injustice to all. It's only a matter of time before that same problem becomes your own problem. One, conscientize the people. Two, organize the people. Give back power back to the local government. There is no gainsaying that. The structure I talked about on set about the fabric of the society of the Nigerian state. Do we have a Nigerian state in a true sense of it, or have some very few people hijacked the state? How can 200 million people be held hostage? What's the population size of all the politicians in Nigeria? I dare say they are not up to 10,000. Those holding office. What's the population size of the rest of us? So there's a hijack. The headsman is not our problem. The Mietiala person is not our problem. You know why? When it's time for election, the northern governors make promises to Mietiala. Some of the southern governors, to win their states, make promises to Mietiala. When they win election and come into office, then they leave Mietiala to themselves. And the people begin to fight themselves. There is no Nigerian truly that hates his brother. So why do people kill people? You need to do some research as to why people kill people. If there's a sense of existential threat for economic reason, to keep their businesses thriving, we need to go down to the issues that we have in the state. So if the governors are sincere, we will see sincere actions. And I get them. I get them just around up. Let's begin to see actions from next week. Not just talk.
The president of the Senate did say, it appeared that that was a jibe, when he says, look, this problem is a failure of the local government system.
Absolutely.
So, and we know the governors are in charge of the states and the local governments. So perhaps is he saying that, look, if you thought that there was a problem that needed to be solved, you need to look in the mirror, because if you don't let the local government work, this is what you get. So is that what he's saying, deflating from the fact that we need to have an overall look at the constitution and then the lopsidedness or inequities that exist?
That's a very fine counter-argument by the Senate president. That's not to say he is not without his own issues and that the president can be completely excused from this, because the problem we have today is a problem of leadership. But yes, I agree. In general principles of security, a sensible and sustainable approach to security, providing solution for security, is a local approach. If you tear off the fabric and the structure of what you call the native authority or local government authority, then you have nothing. There's nobody to hold on to. There's no sense of ownership in the local governments today. You have caretaker committees, sole administrators, appendages, stooges of the governors. There is no democracy, is not even tribal. We insult Lagos and the APC in Lagos all we want. But seemingly, elections are taking place in Lagos. In some states, zero. By fiat, the Supreme Court gave a judgment, I think, against the Oyo State government in some of these similar issues. So when you don't have the chief security officer of the local government elected by the people, owing his true allegiance to the people, not to the governor, these are the issues we will have.
But if that were the case, they want local governments or the governors to do something and strengthen the security apparatus or architecture of their states. The Benue State governor has cried out several times, and it looks as if he wants to move from talking to doing.
Yes.
Now, the complaints, hoopla in some quarters about what he's trying to do with the livestock guards, whether or not he's trying to arm them. Some people are saying, no, we need to stop that. So how do you say on the one hand something needs to be done, and then on the other hand he wants to do something and you say, no, don't do it? What's going on?
What you call a national security strategy, or what you call a national security posture, you can't put something on nothing. The foundation of a national posture is local peace in every local community that enables the government to project force and protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. This structure is on its head currently, because the force that should project national strength and national peace is busy engaged in over 34 states of the Federation in internal security issues. Nobody's talking about the police. So fundamentally, you have to solve the issue of the local government. And I agree with the Benue State governor. You can't fold your hands and do nothing. And he has not said, he is arming, he has said, I listened to some statement, he said, women become men. Get your cutlasses. You can't stop anybody from owning a cutlass. Get your bows and arrows. At least whatever you have within the limits of the law that you can use to enforce your fundamental right to self-defense. You see? So he's trying to do something. And I'm saying the state governors in the states should stop using Abuja as an excuse. Let the people see what you are doing in your states first. And the people will rise up to support. And Abuja will see that the approach, of course Abuja is saying, that the approach to having a unitaristic system of governance in the administration of security in the country is no longer sustainable. So,
Mr. Adekoya, let me take this to Mr. Sado. The challenge here would probably be engaging the people in terms of doing something. We know the resolutions of the southern governors, even the northern governors also sometime in February, already made it clear as far as they are concerned, open grazing was no longer sustainable, no longer fashionable. But in terms of engaging the people from what Mr. Adekoya has said here, how do you think we should take that on? Because we keep hearing that security is everybody's business. Engaging the people, how?
American politics, you find out that the press team or the president regularly come out, I think on a daily basis, to speak to the media, engage the journalists, and they ask questions, and they get responses, and they get feedback, and some of the things that they say they are acting upon. One of the things that is missing in Nigerian society today is that there is the trust link between the citizens and the government is completely broken. And you need to begin to look for a way to resolve this. I read Femi Adesina's article yesterday about EPL comparing Manchester City and Nigerian government, and asked them saying that Nigerian government or Nigeria will rise again. And yes, I strongly believe that Nigeria will rise as a country. But Nigeria will not rise like playing players that cannot score goals. If Nigeria was going to be like EPL, people like Femi Adesina and Bashir should have been sitting on the bench of incompetence. But at the moment, these are the people that are in the forefront striking for the governments. And so how do you expect the country to move forward? How do you expect people to take words from these people here when all that you get from government is savagery? Is responses to people instead of government taking initiative? How does the government engage the citizens by building war or by insulting them, by coming on national television to denigrate people, bring down their names and tell them that they are winners or they are wonderful names they are called? Look, the governance is a big responsibility. I've spoken about the principle of burden and benefit. First thing that comes upon the shoulder of people elected to lead the society is the burden of leadership. When I make an example of comparing engineering or technical team to a government solving a problem, when a person solves the problem, his pride goes up, his joy comes in. When a person continues to give excuses, it's just a matter of time. You'll be asked to leave his post. I don't know who and who is holding people, government, or leadership accountable in Nigeria as a society. Because as citizens, there is no platform, or there are no platform for us to ask questions, and no platform for us to engage this and demand for resolve. This is the only thing that can motivate the young people. I've interacted with quite a number of them, and I know that many of them are willing to see a society that works. But what they need is a leader that can champion them, a leader that can give a vision and be able to communicate his own vision to them and be able to inspire them to follow, to achieve that vision, because it's going to be for the benefit of the people. If the people can find that, look, we are stakeholders in this business, if the people can see that this nation belongs to all of us and everything that is working in the system is working for their own benefit. If the people can see that government is taking their own things as a priority, I will make a mention this. I spoke to on camera to tell me earlier that for the past 4 months, Matthias Tagoda is sitting in front of you. I have not seen electricity supply in my house. How do you motivate the people in my area to be committed to whatever government has to say? These are the things, these are the core issues that need to be addressed. If the citizens can find a platform for them to be able to express themselves that will support their dream, that will support their aspirations, everybody will be on board. But if it is something that is just for the purpose or for the sake that is existing for government officials alone, when you have a situation where the president of the country is budgeting 100 and something million naira to buy kitchen utensils, or they are budgeting billions to fix the Aso Rock clinic, and we are not seeing results. I'm seeing the president flying abroad to go and have a medical health check. How do you motivate the citizens to support whatever, or to even listen to what the government has to say? If the president comes out today to say he's addressing the country, you'll find that the majority of people will turn off their television. People will rather walk on the streets than to be engaged in listening to what he has to say. I look forward to the day when the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will want to address this country, and the streets of our nation will be empty because people want to listen to what their leaders say. The words of a leader are very powerful. It's not just bowing to say, I will do this, I will do this, and at the end of the day, nothing happens. If we want to engage the people, begin by having a proper communication system. If it is possible, let the media team of the president begin a weekly media briefing and tell Nigerians what the president has done in the week and what the president intends to do in the coming week. And the support that they need.
Okay, just a little bit. I think Mark's got some questions as well. Mark?
Just, I feel Mr. Sado's pain. If you haven't had electricity in a while, I mean, that can be a lot. But, the decay in the local government have been on for a while. It didn't just happen with the coming or the advent of these particular governors. I mean, it would seem that there's been a systemic decay even before the return to democracy. And in the return to democracy, it would seem just solidified the death knell, or spelled the death knell, it would seem, for local governments. And what we have is just, caretaker chairmen, so to speak. And in places where the elections are conducted, those elections, we've seen the outcome of the elections. Oftentimes, I think the guest in the studio spoke of loyalty to the governor instead of loyalty to the people. Big questions there. So how do we begin to address what it will seem is a long-term decay in the local government, which is also translating into the insecurity that we all seem to be experiencing across the country?
Thank you, Mape. You see, the issue is these problems are, they are kind of very, very, they've been with us for a very long time. And yes, if we want to address it, we need to be able to, at the moment, use the challenges that we have faced we are facing as a country, to holistically begin to look at the solutions for these problems from the basic, or from the first principle, from the basic principles of being able to elect your own representative, even in your own small community. We need to be able to do that. But first and foremost, there has to be a system, there has to be a commitment from the leadership of the country that will be able to stand and stamp his foot on ground and say, this is what I want to achieve. If you are able to mobilize the Nigerian people to achieve anything, I don't see anything in this world that can stop us. First assignment, first responsibility. How do you motivate the leader, the citizens of this country to believe in the words of the leaders? And that is why I'm saying that the beginning would be, there has to be a constant communication. And what I'm talking about is not some political jingle. I'm talking about a very heartfelt information that comes from the seat of power to the citizens, and be able to motivate them and be able to get them to be interested in the leadership system in the country. Quite frankly, if you look at the way the whole system is at the moment, the country is, like the chap in Lagos said, the country is being controlled by just about less than 5% of our population.
Sado,
these people are.
Yeah, pardon me, but we need to wind down, so let's just have him also give his own concluding comment. So what do you want to see in terms of actions? If you quick things you want to see now, what would those be?
I think that our problem is we like quick fixes. There's no quick fix to the issue here. We must be more strategic. We must have a very long-term approach. There are a number of issues we need to look at. We need to look at the defense industry in Nigeria. And but
there must be steps that you take towards that long-term.
Yes, so let me try and talk about some of the steps. No quick fix. We can't talk it all here in less than how many minutes. First, to the local government issue. I mean, if the local governments are third tiers of government, why is INEC not handling their elections? Maybe let's just say that the state independent electoral committees or commissions are not really independent. So can we consider, because truly the local government is a third tier. So can we look at that in the near term? Now, for security, a lot of things has to happen. I do think that the president, commander-in-chief, has to convey a town hall meeting or a village meeting with every sense of sincerity. He must find a will to sit down with the 5% that didn't vote, or 5% that voted, or the ones that didn't vote, and have honest national conversation. There is no near-term military solution to the problems we are having. The people, if properly organized, will act as force multiplier for the forces we have, who the president have acknowledged are limited in their numbers, also limited in terms of their capability and capacity currently, also knowing that the munitions we need are not off the shelf. So we must think outside the box. Outside the box is looking for a solution, a political solution now. There must be certain concessions. You see, we are 200 million people. There must be some give and take. The president must provide leadership at the top. And lastly, the governors, please, with due respect to their excellencies, enough of the talk. Let us begin to see actions in the states. Hold the local government chairman responsible, at least the ones that is not like the Northeast. There are governors who said they will hold certain emirs or village chiefs responsible for insecurity in their domain. Can we see the same thing? Give the local government a marching order. If there's any blah, blah, blah in your local government, we know you are the problem. Whatever solution, political, whoever you need to meet, the leaders of thought, meet the youth, meet everybody, solve the problem. Let's see those marching orders, and let's hope that at least we can give the federal government some breather to be able to address the national issues we have in the Sahel.
All right, then that's Onyekachi Adekoya, as well as Matthias Sado. Gentlemen, thank you both for your perspectives this morning. Let's move on to some feedback quickly from gentlemen and who, at least those who are watching.
Well, the first one is a mail from George Akpangbo, who says, I must say that the two senior legal colleagues are very correct in relation to the security situation in Nigeria. though I personally think it is very little too late for the governors to come out with that decision, as a lot has happened. Please, someone should kindly tell the two, I believe, National Assembly leaders he meant there, to face the reality on ground and stop shifting the blame. Things are falling apart completely in Nigeria of today, and we have run out of time.
Well, this tweet from Abdul Qadir Nasidi says, talking about the Southern Governors meeting, says, I'm glad that the governors are getting more proactive in providing solutions, and federal government must listen to them. However, local governments must also be allowed to function properly to allow more participation.
Olagunjo Oladele says, I understand the demands of the southern governors are not backed by law, so senators, reps from the southern states must ensure the realization of the resolutions at the Governors Forum, okay, that's the resolutions reached at the Governors Forum. Each region has its peculiarities, so they must sort it out themselves.
This one is from Abdusalam Yusuf, still on the Southern Governor, says, 17 state governors cannot do it alone. The 36 governors have to come together in one voice to make, he writes it in caps, resolutions. But unfortunately, the political calculations for 2023 is making that close to impossible.
Oh dear. Oscar Ikechukwu says, moving forward to a rebirth of Nigeria, all the regions must come together in unison to agree on a formula that will work for all.
And Dr. Ikemosa says the underlying political agreement that guaranteed political and social consensus has been poorly implemented. Nigerians are calling for a review. And lastly, national conference. This is from Ikone David. Says, we don't even need another sovereign national conference. It's another waste of money. Why can't we start the implementation of previous reports of the national confabs we've done in the past? That document was handed over by GEJ to PMB on handover. Oh, that's what Ikone David says. I guess that's all we have to leave it for the show this beautiful Friday. I don't know if it's a holiday. I don't know if people say it was a holiday. People say, no, it's not a holiday. People are at work. Well, we're here anyway, and you've been a part of our conversation. If you've extended the holiday into the weekend, we hope you're going to have fun this weekend. Do take it easy and stay safe. Thank you for watching. I'm Alpe Ogun Yusuf.
Of course, you remember that one of the states extended the holiday to today. I'm Ayo Makide. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain, so we'll see you next time.